everyone, today we're going to be doing a first impressions and time trial on the Ordinary foundation. This is their full coverage foundation and I'm excited to try it because I've heard so many people talking about this. The main reason that people are talking about this brand is because the prices are so low. This foundation cost $6.95 retail, which is just incredible. I don't think you can find anything even at the drugstore that goes for that price. Now, some of you may be aware that The Ordinary has really struggled with their stock ever since they came out with their foundation range. I've been hearing stuff that they've had like a 25,000 person waiting list to get certain colors. I had the opportunity to go to the store in downtown Toronto for a beauty event and they did kindly give us 30% off our purchases, so I did pick up the foundation for even less than retail price, which is just amusing because then it was like, what, $5? But they had a really limited color range when I showed up, just because they've been selling out so much. I have the shade 1.1N, which is fair neutral, and I have to say I am so happy to see a pump top on an inexpensive product. I am so frustrated more recently with Estee Lauder for having a $50 foundation and yet no pump top. I think that's completely unacceptable, so I'm really happy to see that The Ordinary has a pump top. For reference, I am roughly a MAC NW20. I do have pink undertones, but I usually try to counteract it by wearing something a little bit more yellow, or I'll choose to wear a neutral foundation, which is what this is supposed to be. In terms of dryness, I am more on the dry side of things. However, I do tend to go a little bit more oily in the summer and a little bit more dry in the winter. However, I have discovered this past summer that I was a little bit more dry in general, so keep that in mind. All right, let's give this foundation a shot. I'm going to be applying it with my Damp Real Techniques Miracle Complexion Sponge. This is the only way I apply foundation. I also have no primer on my skin and I won't be touching up throughout the day. This is claimed to be a high coverage, creamy foundation that softens undesirable hues. It also comes with 1 fluid ounce of foundation, which is pretty typical. Okay, foundation is on. That was definitely full coverage. I look like a completely blank slate. Some people may not be aware, but the viewfinder doesn't have the same range of colors that you can see on your monitor. So for me, I just almost look like a white screen. It's kind of, it's a little bit disconcerting. Anyway, that covered everything up. I do think it's a better match for my neck than it was for my face, which is fine by me. I like for everything to look the same color, but it was kind of weird as I was applying it, watching my skin color behind completely evaporate. So I would say that this is definitely a very high coverage foundation. It did go on nicely with the sponge. I did find I had to apply slightly more pressure in order to push it into my skin, just to make it look a little bit seamless, I guess you could say, because it's such a high coverage foundation and I'm not necessarily used to wearing that much coverage. I did feel like the edges of my face needed to be like really pushed in so that it didn't have like a line between where my hairline is and then where the rest of my face was. I'm gonna do the rest of my face and I will be right back. There we go, the rest of my face makeup is on. Everything went on perfectly fine, which actually surprised me a little bit because it still hasn't really dried down. It's not really transferring to my hands, but it still feels a little bit tacky. I am hopeful though that this will dry down because otherwise it's gonna feel a little bit strange all day. Anyway, I'm gonna head to work. It is currently 7:59 a.m. and I'll be home around 5 o'clock and we will see how this will work. Okay, it's the end of the day. It is currently 5:11 p.m. and I hate this foundation. I don't know what all of these reviews have been raving about this foundation. I cannot stand it and I have been itching to scrape this off my skin for the last 4 hours. I actually wrote notes down on my phone. I usually do, but there's so many of them that I want to refer to all of them. So this never dried down. I never felt like it got comfortable and not transferable. Like, you know when you touch your skin and foundation kind of lifts, usually because it hasn't dried? It's still doing that. It's been doing that since I put it on this morning. So it hasn't dried down. And if somebody is going to say you need to use a powder, you need to use a primer, I'm gonna argue with you. I am not somebody who typically wears these things, nor do I think that you should buy a product with the need to buy something else to make it work. So for me, I just like, no. The most concerning thing for me is that my face feels so freaking dry. And I had to think back, I'm like, did I forget moisturizer this morning? And no, I remember very clearly that I applied my moisturizer this morning because I am testing at a skincare range. And yet my face feels so freaking dry that I want to scratch it off. However, I'm shiny. How does that even work? I am oily through here, and like around my chin. The only place that's actually dry is like right along there. So even though it's oily everywhere, my face feels dry. That doesn't make any sense to me. If I'm producing oil, my face should not feel like it's tight, like it's just itchy and I want to scratch it. Oh, I'm very frustrated if you couldn't tell. Because it hasn't really dried down, it is lifting in certain areas. If I touch my fingers there, I have lifted the foundation and I've got like a fingerprint right in that area. No, that's not okay. What else? It wasn't hot out today either, so it's not like I'm visibly oily because it was a warm day. It's maybe 16 degrees outside, maybe 20. That's not warm in my opinion. That is like normal testing temperature for a foundation. And this didn't go through any extreme conditions as far as I'm concerned. So the foundation has slid off my nose, which is not unusual for me, so don't judge it on that. But the fact that it just lifts off when I press my fingers to my face is wild. It shouldn't be doing that as far as I'm concerned. My face just looks cakey. It looks oily. It looks like a mess. It hasn't necessarily broken apart in certain areas, but it's just kind of lifted away, which is just not useful for anybody. Like, there's no point in wearing foundation if your skin is going to look like this at the end of the day. The point in foundation is to make your face look like it's an even tone, to cover up any problems. But for me, this just makes my skin look worse. I would look much better without any foundation on at all. So sadly for me, The Ordinary foundation is a total pass. I'm sad. I really wanted to like this. I like the price point. I like the bottle. I like, you know, the idea of the brand in general to provide good ingredients at a low cost point, but it just didn't work out for me. And so I can't support the price point if it's not gonna work on me at all. So for me, The Ordinary gets 2 enormous thumbs down. I would not recommend it. Do not go buy this. I don't care how cheap it is. Don't give it a shot. I hope this helped you out. I haven't seen that many negative reviews about this foundation, so if you are lost in the sea of positive reviews, maybe this one will help you just a little bit. Thank you for watching, and I will catch you next time. Bye.